What's up, guys? What's going on, man? I'm Paul. This is Pauline Theology's daily devotional with Trust in Jesus Ministries, and we are going through the book of Genesis. I'm glad you're here. Glad you're listening. Whether it's morning, noon, or night, man, we have been studying Genesis for quite some time. A lot of episodes, but it has been very good. I think there has been a lot that we have learned from here, and let's not stop learning, man. Let's never stop learning, because the more we know about the character of God, man, the more we will love him. And the more we know about our own character, and the more we can be more like Jesus and understand how we live and how we see the world. And then we can apply these truths. So it's so good to be able to join you guys as we study through this scripture. We are on Genesis chapter 46, a new chapter, guys, 1 through 7. And we're about to head on to Egypt, man. We've already jumped in the cart and took off, but now we're going to have a little stop. We're going to do some things. We're going to see some awesome stuff. So if you haven't read it yet, go ahead, stop the tape, see what it has to say. 46, 1 through 7. Come back. We'll answer the 4 questions. If you've already read, let's jump into the questions, man. The first question is, what's going on? What is happening? What is actually happening in the narrative? Well, Jacob heads from Canaan, the land of Canaan, and he's headed to Egypt. And he stops at Beersheba on the way. And when he stops there, he offers a sacrifice. What's so amazing about this is actually the site where Isaac built an altar for God. And so he is actually sacrificing on the altar that Isaac has built ages ago. It's kind of like maybe like a generational discipleship thing, the place where his father offers sacrifices to God, that now Jacob is offering sacrifices to God. And what we see here is that there hasn't been an appearance or anything by God for him to offer this sacrifice. So really it's a thanksgiving sacrifice for the fact that God has revealed to him that his son is still alive. He's probably just praising God, raising his hands and shouting and singing and all the things that we would attribute to worship. He is doing that here because he is so thankful that his son is alive. He's worshiping God. And after that, God appears with him. He meets with him. He shows up, and so I think a powerful scripture that we read is in Psalms. It says that God inhabits the praise of his people, or he sits on the throne of our praises. And so that's one thing we can see here is as he worships God, God appears. He shows up, man. And what does he say? He says, don't be afraid to go down to Egypt. I will be with you. And it didn't seem like he was afraid because he wanted to see his son, but I think it's important because his father wasn't allowed to go to Egypt. He said, don't go that way. Stay away. Go to the land of Canaan, actually, I think he went to the Abimelech. He said, stay to the land where I tell you to go. Don't go to Egypt. And so maybe that's in the back of his mind that I'm not supposed to be in Egypt. My father didn't get a chance to go. He told him not to go. Why am I going? But God appears to him and he says to him, he says, hey, don't go to, he says, go to Egypt. Don't worry. I'm going to take care of you. Matter of fact, he says after that, I will go down to Egypt with you. And then not only that, because he's in Canaan, the land that God had promised him, and he thought he would be settled there forever. He says, not only am I going to go with you down there, but he says, I will surely bring you back up. It's like that. You won't stay down there. Now, this is not Jacob himself, Israel himself, who's going to come back up. We're going to see that he's going to die because later on in this, he says that your son Joseph will close your eyes. But what he is saying is that his people, his descendants, his nation, because he says, I'm going to grow you into a great nation down there, man. I'm going to make you a huge nation. Is that nation that is made from his loins in Egypt will not stay there. They will get to be and possess the land that God has promised to them because God promised it. And what have I been saying over and over about God's promises? Is that he keeps them. He's faithful. He's true. And so he tells Jacob, Israel, go ahead, go down to go down. I'm trying to think of which is the correct direction, to the land of Egypt, man, and stay there. You're going to be there for a while. He says, but I'm going with you. And not only that, I'm going to bring you back up. And then he says, and your son Joseph will close your eyes, which is a blessing because that's probably the particular reason why he offered the offerings, is in thanksgiving to God that his son is alive. The one in whom he thought had died is still alive. And so he kind of corroborates that evidence. Now he saw it and he believes now, but then God himself has confirmed that his son is still alive. And then the passage moves on to from the appearance of God to Jacob taking all of the stuff and going back, or going down to Egypt in the wagons that Pharaoh had gave him. It's just a confirmation that when he believed God, he trusted God and continued the journey on to Egypt. So what does it say about God? Well, first off is that I believe it says that he is the God who is present. He is with us. We've seen in this Joseph saga that God was with Joseph through this entire situation of being sold, being in jail, and then being set to prominence where he is now in order to save his family and the world, that God was with him. And now we see again here that God is with Jacob as his whole family. It says he brought his sons, his grandsons, his daughters, his grandson, the daughters of his grandson. He brought all of them to the land of Egypt, and he brought all his animals, his livestock, and everything, all of that which he possessed, he brought down to Egypt. God had told him to go, and he is going, but God is with him. And so we know that God is one who is present. He is present with us. What does this say about man? Is that we should worship God. Worship God in everything, in all things. Man, there's not a lack of reason to worship God, because he is the great I am. He says he is the God of his father Isaac. And that wasn't by any mistake that he said that. He's worshiping on the same altar that his father has built. And so the God of his father has appeared to him. So worship God. And this is generational too. Like I said, it was his father's. It was his father's altar. He's the God of his fathers. This is a generational discipleship that should happen as we walk with our children, to be able to show them what it looks like to live for God. See, the reason that Jacob worshiped the way he did in the place that he did is because he saw his father worship. And so it's not just a conveying of knowledge orally, but it's a conveying of knowledge actively as we live out our lives. So how do we apply these truths to our lives? Well, I think what we can learn from this is that God being present with us should spur us on to worship him. And then bring those around us, whether it's your children physically or spiritually, or if it's just the people that you work with, the circle of influence that you have, bring them along with you in this worship. Recognize that God is with you and let that spur on spontaneous worship. Man, I appreciate you guys for listening. And I will see you guys in the next episode.